The air was thick with tension as humanity stared down the unknown. Earth, though technologically advanced compared to its past, was still a fledgling in the grand cosmic stage. Despite their burgeoning space exploration efforts, humanity was still struggling to find its place among the stars. The once promising space stations and fledgling military fleets now seemed like fragile outposts in the vastness of space, vulnerable and easily ignored by the galactic powers. Earth's scars from environmental decay were just beginning to heal, but the real battle, the one for their place in the universe, had only just begun. Captain Ilara Quinn stood at the helm of Earth's defense operations, staring out into the cold, distant blackness of space. The Zorath Union, an alliance of powerful alien species, had entered Earth's orbit. Their arrival felt like a nightmare made real. They had traversed the galaxy, discovering and cataloging the most advanced civilizations, yet humanity was regarded as little more than a speck of dust, primitive, unworthy of anything but subjugation. The Zorath Union saw them as weak, untested, a species still in its infancy. Earth's technology, though advancing rapidly, was still childlike in comparison to their galactic counterparts. The cold dismissal from the Union felt like a slap in the face, igniting a fury in Ilara's chest. Was humanity really that insignificant? Could they ever stand against the vastness of the cosmos? The Zorath fleet loomed on the horizon, a dark mass of ships, each one a technological marvel. Their size and power dwarfed humanity's defenses, and their leader, Admiral Zyron, had come with an offer: submit to their rule, and Earth would be spared. Refuse and face utter destruction. The ultimatum was clear: Earth could submit and join the cosmic fold or be wiped from existence. Ilara's stomach churned with the realization of what lay ahead. How could humanity ever hope to stand against such an advanced, powerful force? Jason Holt, her fiery second-in-command, stood beside her, his eyes burning with the same desire to prove Earth's worth. "We can't just let them walk all over us," Holt snapped, his voice brimming with defiance. "We fight. We show them. We're not their playthings. We show them what humanity's made of." Ilara could feel the heat of his words, but she wasn't so certain. The stakes were too high for rash decisions. They couldn't afford to act out of pride. She had seen the Zorath fleet's firepower up close. To fight them would be a death sentence, but Holt's energy was infectious, and her doubts began to clash with her own sense of duty. Earth was nothing if not a testament to human resilience. She had spent her life in the military, dedicated to the defense of her planet, yet now she was uncertain of their chances. Could they truly take on an entire fleet with their meager resources? Her mind raced, torn between the duty to protect Earth and the crippling fear of annihilation. Yet the fires of rebellion burned deep within her. This wasn't just about survival, it was about humanity's place in the galaxy. They had to fight. There had to be another way. In the shadows of the operations room, Dr. Solana West worked. Tirelessly, her eyes glued to the screens before her. She had been tasked with a project that could change the tide of the war. Genesis, an advanced AI system capable of predicting and outmaneuvering the alien fleet. It wasn't complete, not by a long shot, but she knew it was their best shot. The AI could be the key to survival, but it was still in its infancy. Its code was incomplete, its functionality uncertain, and yet it might just be powerful enough to challenge the Zorath Union's near-perfect coordination. Solana couldn't afford to hesitate. The future of Earth rested on her shoulders. But as the weight of the decision grew heavier, she began to wonder, could humanity truly trust an artificial intelligence to protect them? What if Genesis turned on them? What if humanity's desperation led them to abandon their morality and reliance on technology? The clock was ticking, and the pressure was mounting. The Zorath fleet had begun to move closer, and the window of opportunity was closing fast. Ilara, Holt, and Solana were caught between choices that could lead them down different paths. One of desperate resistance, one of cautious strategy, and one that relied on the very technology they feared might be their downfall. The battle lines had been drawn. Humanity's very existence hung in the balance, but could they take the plunge and put their faith in a machine to save them from the brink of destruction? As the Zorath Union's ships moved closer, the final confrontation became inevitable. The decision was made. Humanity would not submit. It was time to stand, no matter the cost. With Genesis activated, the first ripple of hope spread through the ranks of Earth's military. The AI predicted the enemy's next moves with eerie precision, allowing the human fleet to strike with unexpected accuracy. The tide of the battle began to shift. Ships, though outgunned, fought with cunning and ingenuity, striking at the weak points in the Zorath fleet that had previously gone unnoticed. For the first time in this conflict, humanity wasn't just surviving, they were winning. The battle was fierce and chaotic, ships disintegrating in the void of space, explosions lighting up the black expanse. But with every Zorath ship that fell, their arrogance began to crumble. The humans were showing them just how wrong they had been. This wasn't a primitive species. This was a species that refused to give up, no matter the odds. And then Holt made the ultimate decision. With the flagship of Admiral Zyron still intact, he knew the only way to end this was to target the heart of the Zorath fleet. He led a final charge, his ship darting through enemy lines, aiming for the flagship. It was a suicide mission, but Holt's resolve was unwavering. He fought not just for his life, but for humanity's future. The explosion that followed rocked the alien fleet, the flagship destroyed in a brilliant flash of light. The remaining Zorath ships faltered. The battle was over. The victory, however, came at a great cost. Holt was dead, his sacrifice immortalized. In the hearts of all who survived, Ilara watched as the Zorath fleet retreated, their forces in disarray. Humanity had won, not by force alone, but by their ingenuity, their willingness to fight against impossible odds, and their refusal to surrender. The Zorath Union, now humbled, agreed to a ceasefire. Their offer to help humanity rebuild was met with cautious optimism. But even as Earth began to recover, Ilara knew that the galaxy had seen humanity for what they truly were: survivors, creators, and forces to be reckoned with. As Earth began to rebuild, Ilara stood before the stars, wondering what awaited beyond. The victory was hard won, and the future was uncertain. But one thing was certain: humanity would rise again, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them head-on, united in strength and creativity. They were no longer a primitive species. They were humanity, and the universe would never be the same. Earth had come a long way. Once ravaged by war and environmental collapse, it was now rebuilding. Space stations were springing up, fleets of ships testing the bounds of human exploration. But in the grand scheme of the universe, Earth was still a newcomer, an untested species among the stars. Humanity's technological growth, though impressive by Earth standards, was insignificant when compared to the vast civilizations that had long since mastered the stars. The galaxy, once a distant dream, now felt cold and vast, and Earth, despite its recovery, was still isolated on the outside looking in. Captain Ilara Quinn stood at the helm of Earth's defense, staring out at the cold, dark expanse of space. She knew that Earth's military was no match for the fleet that was approaching. The Zorath Union, a coalition of alien species, had entered the solar system with an undeniable presence. The Zorath ships were massive, gleaming with advanced technology beyond human comprehension. Earth's fragile defenses were dwarfed by the size and firepower of the approaching armada. Ilara could feel the weight of their superiority bearing down on her, and the tension in her chest tightened as the realization hit her. Humanity was facing an enemy far more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. The alien fleet moved with terrifying precision, cutting through space like a living entity. Their ships moved seamlessly, their formation a perfect, synchronized dance of death. The humans watched in awe and horror as the Zorath vessels positioned themselves in Earth's orbit, effortlessly asserting their dominance over the planet. The alien ships weren't just a threat, they were an overwhelming force, impossible to ignore or contest. Ilara's heart raced, not with hope, but with fear. The humans were so small, so fragile in comparison to the cold might of the Zorath Union. The sense of impending doom was almost suffocating. Without warning, the Zorath forces began their assault. One by one, Earth's satellites, defense systems, and communication networks blinked out of existence. The alien fleet's weapons were precise, overwhelming in their power. Humanity's attempts to defend themselves were laughable in comparison. Nothing Earth had could withstand the might of the Zorath. Ilara clenched her fists as Earth's defenses were rendered useless in seconds. Every move the humans made was countered with ease, and it quickly became clear Earth was outgunned and outmatched, helpless in the face of the Zorath's technological might. The realization spread quickly among the military and government leaders. Their worst fears were coming true. There was no fighting back. As the Zorath fleet moved into position, Admiral Zyron's voice echoed across Earth's communications channels. His words were calm, measured, but filled with an arrogance that made the hairs on the back of Ilara's neck stand up. "You are not worthy of this galaxy," he said. "Submit to the Zorath Union, or we will obliterate you. This is your only choice. Resistance is futile." The message was clear. Earth was nothing more than a nuisance, a blip on the radar of a galaxy far beyond their understanding. The Zorath Union, with their unparalleled technology, saw humanity as primitive, insignificant. To them, this was no battle, it was an inevitability. Across Earth, leaders, military commanders, and civilians watched in silent dread as the Zorath ships hovered above their cities. The message was broadcasted worldwide, crushing the morale of the planet. The Zorath were offering guidance, but their tone made it clear. This was no offer. It was a demand. The overwhelming display of power from the alien fleet left humanity reeling, questioning whether there was any hope left. The aliens mocked Earth's defenses, treating them as a joke. Their weapons, their ships, their technology, everything about them screamed superiority. And the humans, for the first time, were left feeling small, insignificant. The idea that Earth would be crushed under the heel of the Zorath Union became a sobering reality for many. Across the globe, people listened to the alien broadcast, each word like a nail in humanity's coffin. "You are weak," the Zorath Admiral continued. "Your technology is nothing but child's play. We have seen civilizations far more advanced than you fall in mere moments. We offer you a chance to join us, to evolve under our guidance. If you refuse, we will end you." The message reverberated through humanity's collective psyche like a poison. The insults, the dismissive tone, the clear intent to dominate, they broke something inside the people of Earth. Fear turned into hopelessness, and soon despair began to take root. How could Earth possibly stand against such a force? Was this the end of humanity's story? In response, the United Earth government called an emergency summit. Leaders and military officials gathered in a tense room, their faces etched with the weight of the decision before them. There was no middle ground. The Zorath Union had made their terms clear. Earth could submit and preserve its people, or resist and risk annihilation. The summit was split. Some argued for surrender, reasoning that submission was the only way to save lives. Others, led by Captain Ilara Quinn, argued that humanity's survival depended on resisting. They could not bend to the will of the Zorath Union. Humanity had fought too long to be free. To give in now would be to abandon everything they stood for. The debate grew heated, the room thick with tension. "We can't let them just take over," Holt's voice rang out, his passion unmistakable. He stood at Ilara's side, eyes burning with the need to prove humanity's worth. "We've fought for centuries to be free. We won't give that up now." Ilara looked at him, seeing the fire in his eyes, the same fire she'd once felt. But her mind was clouded by doubt. Could humanity truly stand up to a force so much greater than themselves? Dr. Solana West, a quiet presence in the back of the room, interrupted. "There's another way," she said, stepping forward with an air of cautious optimism. "I've been working on something. An AI system called Genesis. It's not finished yet, but it has the potential to predict and outmaneuver the Zorath's tactics. We can fight back, but it's risky. It's not ready, but it might be humanity's last chance." The room fell silent. Genesis was humanity's most advanced project yet, a system capable of learning, adapting, and making decisions faster than any human ever could. It was their hope, their only hope. With the decision made, the human fleet prepared for battle, knowing that this could be their last stand. With Genesis activated, they launched a counterattack. The AI quickly adapted, predicting the Zorath's next moves with uncanny accuracy. Humanity's fleet, outgunned and outmanned, fought with an ingenuity and creativity that was uniquely human. They struck at the alien fleet's weak points, exploiting flaws in the Zorath's seemingly perfect strategy. For a moment, it felt as if the tide was turning, but the Zorath were quick to adapt, their superior firepower overwhelming the humans. Ships were destroyed, and the human fleet began to falter. The battle ended in disaster, with humanity retreating, battered and broken. But despite the loss, something had changed. The AI's predictions had given them a glimpse of what was possible. Humanity could fight back. They may not have won the battle, but they had found a way to resist. As Ilara, Holt, and Solana watched the remnants of their fleet retreat, they knew one thing for sure: humanity would never bow. They had shown the galaxy that they were capable of standing tall, and the Zorath Union had learned that humans, despite their flaws, were not to be underestimated. The hum of the command center filled the air, the glow of countless screens casting harsh shadows across Captain Ilara Quinn's face. Earth's defenses were up, but they were fragile, meager when compared to the looming threat of the Zorath Union. Her team was deep in the heart of the most critical mission they had ever faced, finalizing the Genesis AI. The AI represented humanity's greatest hope, a last-ditch effort to level the playing field with the alien armada. But sabotage had already struck. Their progress was being hindered from within. She could feel it, the tension in the air, the growing distrust among her team, and the whispers of betrayal that now echoed within the very walls that were supposed to be a sanctuary. As Ilara reviewed the data, her mind raced. Factions had begun to form, and with them, dissent. Some believed that submission to the Zorath Union was humanity's only way to survive. They saw Genesis not as a tool of salvation, but as a dangerous weapon that could lead humanity down a darker, irreversible path. As the sabotage continued, Ilara realized the enemy wasn't just outside Earth's defenses. It was within. Someone, perhaps more than one, was actively working against them. Her heart sank as Dr. Solana West, the lead scientist behind Genesis, voiced her suspicion. "It's not just the aliens, Ilara," Dr. West whispered, her voice shaking with the weight of the discovery. "Someone on our side is helping them. There are infiltrators, and it's getting worse by the day." The walls that once separated allies from enemies were beginning to blur. and Ilara's mind swirled with thoughts of who to trust. The urgency of completing Genesis was now even greater. Every minute, every second that passed was one more step closer to losing everything. The sabotage could not be allowed to continue, but with their resources already stretched thin, there was no clear path forward. The team was divided, and the pressure was mounting. With a heavy heart, Ilara turned to Solana. "We're running out of time. We need to finish Genesis, no matter the cost. We can't let the Zorath Union win. We're humanity's last line of defense." Meanwhile, the sabotage continued, threatening to tear apart everything they had worked for. As Dr. West's team scrambled to fix the critical components of the AI, the growing paranoia within their ranks only fueled the danger. They were not just fighting an alien invasion. They were fighting their own fears, their own divisions. The clock was ticking, and with every passing minute, the weight of Earth's survival grew heavier. Dr. Solana West was caught between a rock and a hard place. As she stared at the glowing screens in front of her, the pressure seemed unbearable. Genesis was humanity's greatest hope, but also their greatest fear. She was being pushed from all sides. The government was demanding progress. The scientists were divided, and the looming threat of the Zorath Union left little room for error. She knew the AI could tip the balance in Earth's favor, but there was a cost. What if, in pushing Genesis to its limits, humanity lost its soul? Could they rely on a machine to defend them, or would that machine ultimately become their greatest threat? Her hands trembled as she reviewed the code. Each line she wrote, each calculation she made, carried the weight of humanity's survival. Yet, with every new breakthrough came a new layer of doubt. The AI's potential was unprecedented. Its ability to adapt, learn, and outmaneuver the Zorath Union's tactics was a beacon of hope. But what if the very thing that could save them also destroyed them? Solana's mind raced as she worked in secret, knowing the stakes were too high to let fear stop her now. There was no turning back. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Jason Holt, Ilara's second-in-command, stood at the forefront of a brewing storm. He was done with waiting, done with the slow, cautious planning. He could feel the weight of the Zorath fleet hovering over them like a dark cloud. Every moment they spent on the defensive felt like an eternity. Humanity needed to act, and they needed to act now. Holt had long since made up his mind. Resistance wasn't enough. Humanity had to show the galaxy they were worthy of their place among the stars. To do that, they needed to strike first, without hesitation, without fear. "Enough waiting," Holt said, his voice filled with resolve. "We can't sit here and let them walk all over us. We need to hit them where it hurts. Guerrilla tactics, disrupt their supply lines, show them what humanity is capable of." Ilara hesitated. She understood Holt's drive, his passion, but the risks were immense. They couldn't afford to act recklessly, especially when their best weapon, Genesis, was still in its infancy. Still, Holt was right about one thing. Humanity had to show the galaxy they were capable of more than just submitting. But Holt's actions were increasingly becoming unpredictable, and Ilara felt the tension between them rise. "Holt," Ilara warned, her voice cold and firm. "You're putting everything at risk. We don't know what the Zorath's full capabilities are. We can't afford another loss like last time. This is not a fight we can win with brute force." But Holt's mind was made up. "I'm not waiting around for a machine to win this for us. We've been underestimated for too long. I'll show them what humanity is capable of." Holt's actions would set off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. The mission quickly spiraled out of control. Holt's guerrilla tactics, while bold and courageous, were no match for the Zorath's superior technology. The Zorath fleet adapted quickly, and Holt's team paid the price. Ships were destroyed, and Earth's military suffered devastating losses. Holt, though brave, had underestimated the sheer might of the Zorath Union. He was forced to confront the reality. Sometimes willpower and bravery weren't enough. As Ilara watched the battle unfold on her screens, her heart sank. Holt's mission had failed. The consequences were clear. They had pushed too far, too fast. Holt's passion had led them down a path of disaster, and the cost was higher than anyone had imagined. But amid the loss, a bitter truth emerged. Humanity wasn't finished yet. The Zorath had underestimated them, and despite the setback, they had learned something invaluable. Genesis could still give them a fighting chance, but would it be enough? With humanity on the brink of annihilation, Ilara's leadership was pushed to its limits. She had to make the hardest decision of her life. Should they fully deploy Genesis, trusting in its predictions, or continue resisting in the way Holt had, through brute force? Ilara knew that the Zorath Union's power was overwhelming, but the AI's ability to adapt and learn could change the tide of the war. The risk was enormous. Could they truly trust a machine with their future? The weight of the decision bore down on her. The fate of Earth rested on this final gamble. Genesis could either be their salvation or their undoing. But Ilara knew one thing for certain: humanity would never bow. They would adapt, survive, and rise again. The battle for Earth was far from over, and this time they would outthink their enemies. With one final push, humanity made its move. Genesis was deployed, and its predictive capabilities began to reshape Earth's strategy. The tide of the battle began to shift. Humanity was no longer fighting blindly. They were fighting with ingenuity, with hope, and with the relentless spirit that had always defined them. The Zorath Union had thought they could crush them. Now humanity would show them just how wrong they were. The activation of Genesis was the final gamble. Dr. Solana West's fingers hovered over the controls, her mind racing with doubts. The AI, still in its early stages, had never been fully tested. Yet in the face of the overwhelming alien threat, humanity's last hope rested on this fragile system. The Genesis AI, though incomplete, was their one shot at survival. Ilara Quinn stood by Solana's side, her gaze unwavering despite the fear gnawing at her. They were on the brink. Either humanity would adapt and survive, or they would be crushed by a force too powerful to defeat. "Here we go," Solana muttered, pressing the final key. The room was silent as the AI activated, its interface flickering to life. A low hum filled the air, and on the monitors, Genesis began to analyze data at an astonishing rate. Almost immediately, it identified a vulnerability in the Zorath fleet's coordination, a chink in the armor that humans could exploit. The possibility of a chance, however small, ignited a spark of hope. The AI's predictions gave them something they hadn't had before, a fighting chance. But the question loomed: could Genesis really deliver? The system was still evolving, its predictions not yet fully reliable. Every human on the command deck held their breath as Ilara directed the team to prepare for the counterattack. The stakes had never been higher. If Genesis worked, humanity could exploit the flaw, striking a blow to the Zorath forces. But if it failed, Earth would fall. The AI's rough edges made every second of the countdown feel like an eternity, but there was no turning back. "Ready for the final strike?" Ilara's voice cut through the tension, her determination unwavering. "We fight or we die." The Zorath Union had proven their superiority in every way, until now. The human fleet, outnumbered and outgunned, was ready to take the fight to them. And with Genesis guiding their every move, they would strike where the Zorath least expected. They would use their most human trait, adaptability, to challenge the seemingly invincible foe. As the human fleet moved into position, the initial chaos of the battle unfolded. The Zorath fleet, vast and powerful, unleashed their fury, and humanity fought back with a mixture of desperation and ingenuity. The battle raged across the void of space, a violent ballet of explosions and evasive maneuvers. The Zorath had underestimated humanity's resilience, but the humans were not so easily cowed. Genesis worked in tandem with human creativity, predicting enemy movements and guiding the fleet through the chaos. Ships on both sides were torn apart, but humanity, despite the heavy losses, managed to cripple a crucial section of the Zorath fleet. The aliens, once so confident in their victory, began to falter. Their flawless coordination was disrupted, their arrogance shaken. The humans were not finished yet. Genesis had given them a weapon, but it was humanity's ingenuity, their ability to think and adapt in the face of overwhelming odds, that made the real difference. The tide of the battle was turning, and the Zorath were beginning to realize that the humans were not as weak as they had believed. With each Zorath ship disabled, the AI's predictions became more accurate, and the human fleet began to turn the battle in their favor. The Zorath forces scrambled, trying to adjust to a force they had underestimated. Genesis was not perfect, but it was enough. The once unstoppable alien armada was now in disarray, and humanity was taking the fight to them in ways they had never imagined. In the chaos of the battle, Lieutenant Jason Holt's voice broke through the static. "This is it. We can end this now. I'm going for the flagship." Ilara's heart skipped a beat as she realized what Holt was proposing. The flagship of Admiral Zyren, the heart of the Zorath fleet, was still intact. Taking it down could shift the entire war in humanity's favor, but it was a suicide mission. Holt, however, wasn't willing to let the opportunity slip. "I'll do what's—" Yet Ilara knew this was just the beginning. The Zorath Union had been forced into retreat, but the peace they had brokered was fragile. Earth was no longer an isolated planet, but a new player in the galactic game. The war had ended, but the questions about humanity's place in the cosmos had only just begun. Would they rise as a powerful force or become pawns in a game controlled by others? The road ahead was uncertain, and Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's victory, though hard-earned, might be the beginning of something far more complex than they were ready for. As the Zorath Union's fleet withdrew from Earth's orbit, Admiral Zyren, the leader of the alien armada, sent an unexpected message: a ceasefire. The Zorath Union had acknowledged humanity's resilience and, for the first time, considered Earth a force worthy of respect. The ceasefire marked a turning point, but it was a cold acknowledgement, one that raised more questions than it answered. The Zorath Union had retreated, but not without offering their help. They would share their advanced technology and knowledge, but at what cost? The idea of accepting their assistance was unsettling to many. The fear that the Zorath's offer came with hidden strings attached weighed heavily on Earth's leaders. Despite the uneasy ceasefire, there was no denying the significance of this moment. Humanity had earned the Zorath Union's respect, but the uneasy peace was fragile. The aliens saw humanity's potential, something they had long overlooked, and now they were offering assistance, perhaps with the hope of shaping the future of Earth into something they could control. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer up for debate, but trust was another matter. Could Earth accept this gift without becoming dependent on the very species they had just defeated? The question loomed large as Ilara, Holt, and Solana gathered to discuss the future. In the midst of all this, Ilara found herself reflecting on the lessons learned from the battle. She had been pushed to the limits of her leadership, her decisions constantly weighed down by the consequences of war. The Genesis AI, humanity's greatest weapon, had played a pivotal role in their success, but its potential was not without peril. Ilara had seen the AI's brilliance, but she couldn't ignore the nagging fear that their reliance on it could reshape humanity in ways they weren't prepared for. Would the AI's power help protect Earth, or would it strip humanity of the very qualities that had made them resilient in the first place? These were questions that haunted her, and answers were nowhere in sight. Solana, too, grappled with the weight of Genesis's success. The AI had proven far more powerful than she had imagined, and it had provided humanity with a glimpse of what was possible when technology and human ingenuity were combined. Yet, in the back of her mind, she wondered if Genesis, a creation born of necessity, was a blessing or a curse. Humanity had fought to prove their worth, to show that they were more than just a primitive species. But now, with Genesis's power in their hands, the question remained, would they still be human? Or would they, like the Zorath Union, be swallowed by the very technology they had embraced? As the debates continued over Genesis's future, the Zorath Union's offer of help became more complicated. Some factions within Earth's government saw the alien assistance as a necessary step to rebuild, a chance to leverage the knowledge and technology that had helped the Zorath dominate the galaxy. But others, including Ilara, saw it as a dangerous compromise. Could humanity continue to evolve without losing its autonomy? Would the price of survival be the surrender of their identity? These were questions that demanded answers, but the truth was that no one knew what the future held. In the wake of the war, Lieutenant Jason Holt, ever the idealist, struggled to reconcile his sense of duty with the bitter reality of Earth's place in the galaxy. He had fought for Earth's survival, leading charges against impossible odds, but now he found himself questioning the meaning of it all. The victory over the Zorath Union had been monumental, but the cost had been staggering. Humanity had fought with everything they had, but now, in the face of a new galaxy-wide stage, Holt wasn't sure what role Earth was meant to play. As Ilara and Holt stood together, overlooking the rebuilding efforts on Earth, they both knew that the road ahead would not be easy. The universe was vast, and though they had won this battle, many more challenges awaited them. The Zorath Union had been forced to retreat, but they were not defeated. Their allies, other alien species, with unknown motivations, would continue to watch and judge humanity's every move. The stakes were higher than ever before. Holt spoke quietly, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "We won, Ilara, but what comes next?" She turned to him, her gaze unwavering. "What comes next is up to us. Humanity has proven that we can adapt, that we can fight, but we cannot lose who we are in the process. We have to decide what kind of future we want, and we have to protect it." The future, it seemed, was still uncertain. But one thing was clear: humanity would never again be the silent, overlooked species it had once been. They had earned their place in the cosmos. But the question remained, could they hold onto their humanity while navigating the complex web of intergalactic politics and technology? The answers would come with time, but humanity had proven they were ready for whatever came next. Their legacy was just beginning. In the aftermath of humanity's hard-won victory, Earth is slowly coming back to life. Cities once reduced to rubble now pulse with new energy as people rebuild both physically and spiritually. The scars of war are still visible, but a new spirit rises from the ashes of the conflict. The process of reconstruction goes far beyond simply restoring infrastructure. It's about redefining humanity's place in the cosmos. Earth's resilience has been proven, and the world now stands as a beacon of hope, not just for survival, but for growth and evolution. The triumph over the Zorath Union has united humanity in ways no one could have imagined. What was once a fractured world, torn apart by division, now finds itself united by a single purpose: to explore, innovate, and carve out a place in the galaxy. The war, painful as it was, became the catalyst for this transformation. Humanity's creativity, adaptability, and refusal to give in to despair have become the cornerstones of Earth's new identity. The war may have been won, but the true battle is only beginning, the battle to reach for the stars. With the Zorath Union's defeat, humanity has stepped onto the galactic stage. No longer are they seen as primitive or inconsequential. The victory has shaken the galaxy and proven that humanity is more than capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most advanced civilizations. The once ignored species now stands at the threshold of a new era, an era where Earth is not only a player, but a force to be reckoned with. The universe has opened up, and humanity is ready to seize the opportunity. Alien alliances, previously unimaginable, are now within reach. Ilara Quinn watches as Earth prepares to engage with other species, eager to share knowledge, technology, and resources that will propel humanity forward. Yet, with these newfound opportunities comes a profound responsibility. The challenge now lies not only in navigating the complexities of galactic politics, but in preserving the core values that have always defined humanity. Can they maintain their independence, their creativity, and their spirit of innovation while forging new alliances? The answers are unclear, but the journey ahead promises to shape the future of Earth in ways they can't yet fully comprehend. As the future unfolds, Ilara reflects on her journey. From the chaos of war to the triumph of survival, she understands that humanity's strength lies not just in their ability to adapt, but in their refusal to yield. The victory over the Zorath Union was hard-won, but it is only one chapter in the ongoing story of humanity. There is so much left to discover, so much left to prove. Standing at the precipice of this new era, Ilara knows that the future is filled with both promise and uncertainty. The stars beckon, offering both wonder and danger. But one thing is certain: humanity will rise to meet whatever challenges lie ahead, as they always have. The war against the Zorath Union may be over, but humanity has been forever changed by it. No longer a divided world, Earth now stands united, bound by the shared experience of survival. The global effort to rebuild has become a symbol of humanity's strength in diversity and innovation. Nations that once bickered now work together, pooling their resources, knowledge, and resolve to push Earth forward. The battle has forged a collective identity, one that will propel humanity into a future filled with infinite possibilities. It is no longer enough for humanity to simply survive. They have proven that they can adapt, learn, and grow, and now they will use that creativity to push beyond the boundaries of what is known. The Zorath Union may have underestimated Earth's resolve, but now the galaxy knows that humanity is no longer just a footnote in the cosmic story. Earth is a rising power, ready to face the unknown, ready to make its mark on the stars. The road ahead is uncertain, but the path is clear. With the defeat of the Zorath Union, humanity has shown that they can face the unimaginable and emerge victorious. The universe is no longer a distant dream, it's a tangible goal. The challenges they face will be unlike any they've encountered before, but humanity's greatest strengths, resilience, creativity, and adaptability, will guide them. The future is uncertain, but humanity is ready. As Ilara gazes at the stars, she knows that the journey is just beginning. Earth's place in the galaxy has been secured, but what they do with it remains to be seen. Whatever lies ahead, humanity will rise to meet it.